It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 18th day of February, 2020. And I am good. Everything worked this morning. My goodness. I'm live on YouTube and I'm live on Facebook. And welcome to a lot of new folks. We've had a nice run of new subscribers. We're up to 1,886, I think the number was this morning. So we got some new folks out there. Welcome one and welcome all. Feel free to join in, leave comments as to who you are and where you are, and meet some of the folks that'll be with us throughout the broadcast today, and probably will be commenting as they go. So, couple things to cover before we really get started with the stories this morning. Primarily the Chillie Chats schedule. I've got a couple Chillie Chats on the schedule now. At noon today, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time today, we're going to do a Chillie Chat with Jason Garland from Pittsburgh about the Carnival panorama. Those of you that have been with me for a while will probably remember that we attempted this while he was in Cabo and I was on the Zuiderdam, and my signal was horrible, so that it was awful. And we had this about a 5 or 6 second delay. I would say something, and it was 6 seconds before he heard it. Then he would answer back to that, and it was 6 seconds before I heard it. And then my signal was wavy, and it was just terrible. It was awful. So we're gonna try again today with Jason back in his home port of Pittsburgh, and me in my studio. So we're going to do our chat about the panorama, and probably do some comparison to the panorama, the Zuiderdam, and the Carnival sunrise that I was on. Of course, the panorama and the sunrise would be probably closer to ships to compare. So that's going to be at noon today. Now, tomorrow night, that's Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm finally going to get my Chillie Chats with Kyle Falwell, who is the pilot that has flown just tons of missions to Abaco Island and other islands, or other parts of the island, flown supplies into the Bahamas since right after the hurricane just decimated that part of the Bahamas. And we're going to be able to talk about what's going on right now. There's still a lot of problems on Abaco. They still need a lot of help, folks. And I'm sure that's going to come out of our chat with Kyle tomorrow evening. So we've tried numerous times to schedule that one, and one thing's led to another, and we couldn't get it together. So that's going to be tomorrow night at 7:30. So those two things are scheduled. I have another Chillie Chat coming up with our friend Emma Latisse from Great Britain on her new cruising academy. But I do not have that scheduled yet. I probably will get that scheduled sometime today, and that's going to be maybe this week also. So who knows? Anyway, that's what's going on. Let's see here. Jason's with us already this morning. Yeah, Jason up bright and early today, and Bonnie's with us. Good to see you again, Bonnie. And let's see, Tom Henry. Tom is probably asleep. He was awake at no, there's Tom too. So Tom is here. He did wake back up. Tom was awake at like 3 o'clock this morning when I was scheduling today's show, and he said he was going back to bed. So Anyway, Tom's back up too, so Tom's with us. All right, let's get started with the first story of the day. Yesterday, Galveston had problems again. That's what it looked like yesterday in Galveston for a couple cruise ships, the Carnival Dream and the Enchantment of the Seas. We're supposed to sail the Dream at 3:30 yesterday afternoon, Enchantment of the Seas at, I believe, 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And the port was closed because of fog. Both ships landed in that god-awful fog in the morning. However, they were both late landing because they, needless to say, were traveling very slowly. But then the port was closed because of the fog. They were not able to sail on time. However, I will point out that both ships sailed during the night last night and are now on their way. However, the first couple hours of their sailings, one got out last evening about 6:30, so it was about 2.5, 3 hours late leaving, and then they had really slow going up until about 2 o'clock this morning before either one of them reached their normal cruising speed. So I mean, they were going at 6 and 7 knots as opposed to 16 knots. So they were really, really taking their time in that soupy fog conditions. They are both now sailing toward their ports of call in Mexico. One's going to Progreso, one's going to Cozumel tomorrow. Both are at sea today, I think it is. But anyway, they are on their way, and they hope to be on schedule by the time they land in their ports of call. So good for them. This is the fourth or fifth time that fog has caused problems in Galveston specifically. It's also happened several times on Mobile and New Orleans also, but Galveston has just been getting a lot of fog, and it shut the port down several times. So this is becoming a kind of a usual thing for cruises out of Galveston. So something you need to be aware of. Tom Henry just said prayers to David and Sally Abel. Very sad situation. That's two people that a lot of us have followed. That was on the Diamond Princess, and they have both now tested positive for that C word that I'm not allowed to say on the air, that Asian flu, if you want to call it that. Very sad situation. They were totally, I thought, wonderful with their reports from the quarantine ship throughout that whole ordeal, and now both of them have tested positive. So sad situation there. Let's see. Bonnie says, hi, Tom. I think Dave and Sally will be okay, although we won't be hearing from them. I hope you're right, Bonnie. And Galveston has had problems with flooding too. Oh, yeah, it rains for 15 minutes and it floods down there, I think. So anyway, that's the first story today. So let's pause for a word from Scoot Around, and I'll be back with the last couple stories here shortly. Do you have a bad back, bad hips, bad knees, or any other mobility issues? Think about Scoot Around. For scooters, walkers, wheelchairs, even oxygen needs, delivered right to your cabin. Scoot Around for all your mobility needs on your upcoming cruise. Okay, I love that music in the morning. This gets me all fired up. And of course, Scoot Around, you guys know that I use it. Bonnie uses it. We love Scoot Around. Great product. If you do have any kind of mobility issues like I do and like Bonnie does, and many of our friends do, by all means, contact them. And if you use that little link thing that's down in my description down there someplace, I'll make a few pennies when you book your scooter. So anyway, that's Scoot Around. The kind of fallout from some of the situation over there in Asia. As you know, many of the whole cruise portion of the world is shut down right now. And this is a recap. This is just from Princess on itinerary changes and cancellations and modifications that they put out yesterday. The Sapphire Princess has had cruises from Shanghai. They sailed out of Shanghai through October. They are going to be relocated to Australia. Excuse me, here comes the cough. Yeah, I'm still fighting the cold. It's a lot better, but every now and then I'll get a tickle and it'll hit me like that. So anyway, back to the story. The Sapphire Princess is going to be relocated to Australia. The Diamond Princess, everything is canceled through at least through April 20th. And then they have to completely, of course, once they get all the passengers off, some of the passengers are still on there. But once they get all the passengers off and the staff then has to go through quarantine and they get off, they've got to get that ship someplace and totally sanitize it and disinfect it or whatever they have to do before it can be used again. So they have canceled everything for the Diamond Princess at least through April 20th, and there may be more from the schedule after that. The Majestic Princess has had cancellations through April the 2nd. The Majestic Princess has had cruises modified now going to Australia. Then the Sun Princess has had some modifications to some of its cruises. The Caribbean Princess that went back into Port Everglades early because of some sickness on board that they were afraid might be that Asian flu, was not. Thankfully, they should be back on their regular itinerary by the February the 13th. So that was this past week. They should have been back on their regular schedule now. But anyway, the Princess Cruise Line is, that's a major portion of their business has been tied up with this whole problem with the Asian market. And I don't see that getting any better probably for the rest of this year. Once they get a handle on this thing, it's still going to be a while before there's going to be travel restrictions lifted for several countries over there. So that Asian market is it's gone, and that's going to hurt the cruise lines a bunch this year. So the other story that I wanted to bring to you is I saw this the other day, and it just, I've always been a believer in having a passport. I've had a passport forever, and I renew them when you're supposed to, and so I keep a passport at all times. A lot of people still try to do the closed-in cruises that they don't have to have a passport, just to, I guess, save on spending the $100 or whatever it costs to get a passport. Well, as of if you're flying to catch a cruise now, so if you got an air flight coming up starting in October to go on a cruise, even if it's a closed-in cruise, like to the Bahamas and something where you didn't have to have a passport, you've got to have a real ID, and the act is called the Real ID Act, which starts October 1st. Everyone who is 18 years or older will be required to have a real ID to take a domestic flight. This will mostly affect travelers who take closed-loop cruises without a passport. You will need one of the following forms of ID to take a flight in the U.S. starting in October: driver's license with a photo ID, or a passport, or a real Department of Motor Vehicles identity card. So, folks, if I can suggest, if you don't have a passport, get a passport. Oh my goodness. Don't take the chance. Now, you've got to have some kind of ID before you can get on an airplane. You used to be able to get on an airplane if you bought a ticket. Well, that's not that way starting in October. You've got to have at least a photo ID now to get an air ticket to go to one of these closed loop cruises that you don't necessarily have to have a passport. But something happens, like, God forbid, you're on a cruise in the Bahamas and you have a quarantine situation like these folks have had, and the ship can't land back in the United States because of illness on board the ship, and you get into a situation similar to what's gone on in Asia. You got to have a passport to get back in this country if you get off the ship in other places. So by all means, before you travel, folks, get a passport. Whatever the $100 or whatever I think that's what it costs, about $100 to get it the first time. Get it, have it. Then you're good for, I don't know, 10 years or something. But don't. I highly do not recommend anyone traveling without a passport anymore. I mean, I tease people all the time that you got to have a passport to go from Virginia to West Virginia now. Well, that's not the truth, but it's getting that way. And if you're going on in any countries, I mean, even on the cruises I was on, I mean, I took my passport with me every time I went to port. I didn't have to have it because I got straight back on the ships, but I had it in case something happened that would require me to have to show it to get back on. And sometimes they are checked. Just happened that I was in ports that they let us back on the ship without checking them. But I had to, I had to have it. And of course I did have my cruise ID also. So that might've been why they didn't check for the passport, because I had the cruise ID hanging around my neck. Anyway, folks, get your passports. Okay, so let's go back and check on any other comments. No comments on Facebook. Let's see, we got down to, there's Gretchen. Hey, Gretchen, good to see you again. Gretchen says good morning to everybody. Bonnie and Tom both say hi to her. Sherry from Cruise Tips TV found out that her April cruise on Diamond Princess is canceled with a full refund. Yeah, they're handling the refunds and all that pretty properly. So, but it's just these are people plan ahead, and they're getting screwed up. Bonnie, maybe we need to cancel our February 2022 Princess Cruise. They may be defunct by then, between the Diamond and Hal Westerdam problems are in the future. Well, I don't think I'm going to have to worry that much, Tom, at this point. But Yeah, I can see your point because boy, this princess especially is having a rough go of it right now. Bonnie says that she told Sherry that she should join us. She was looking for ideas for future cruises. That would be cool. Watch Carnival start doing environmental shortcuts to save. Oh yeah, what? I tell you what, if they do, you guys know that I've been a Carnival guy forever, and I'm getting away from that now. And I'm a lot of that probably will come out in my chat with Jason later today. I loved Holland American. Loved the ship. I loved everything about it. Now I didn't have anything bad about Carnival, but Holland America was just a little better. And it wasn't anything against Carnival, but I'm still in a position if Carnival does any of the environmental shortcuts again, I'll be right up their butt again. I'm not opposed to doing that at all. Jason says if Carnival can survive the Costa Concordia seeking at a total loss, I'm sure they'll be fine. Yeah, well, it's certainly going to hurt the bottom line. It's going to put a clink in their profits for the year, I'm sure. But yeah, no, they're not going to be in any real serious trouble. The Asian market still only represents something like 18% or something like that of the total cruise budget for the year. Tom Henry, I use my passport card for real ID since my Virginia license is not, and it does not need renewed for many years. No need for I haven't gotten a passport card yet. And I think in some instances, the passport card works just as well as the passport, but in other instances, you still have to have the passport. I'm not sure the differences between the two. I'm still a couple years away before my next passport renewal. Probably when I got my last passport renewed, they didn't even have the passport cards in, but I'm familiar with them because my niece got when she got hers renewed last year before she went to New Zealand, she got the passport card too. And let's see, Bonnie says very true, Jason. Now that was a true disaster. Amazing, more people didn't die of the Costa ship. Bonnie says she uses her passport too. I've renewed once already, and no stamps in it. Yeah, that's another question that people are all the time talking about getting their passport stamps. Do you have to ask for it to get stamped? I don't know. I don't think mine's ever been stamped anywhere. I mean, I've been, I don't know, 50 countries. I don't remember it ever being stamped. I guess I could look and see, but I don't think it has. I don't know. Not one of the things that I think about, quite frankly. You can get your passport stamped in Amber Cove next time you were there. Well, I'll be darned. I didn't know that. I guess I could have, when I walked back off on the dock, I could have flashed it and got it stamped. But maybe I'll start getting it stamped. I don't know. Gretchen says, I was disappointed that not all ports in Europe stamp your passport, but I've got a few. Okay. That's something, again, that's just not anything that I've ever followed particularly well. So, all right, guys, that's going to kind of wrap us up today. Again, coming up at noon today, we're going to do Chillie Chats with Jason Garland. That's it's Jason 412, in case you're wondering. That's Jason Garland. And he's in Pittsburgh and was on the Carnival Panorama. And we're going to do some comparison, I feel sure, about the Panorama and the Zuiderdam and Carnival Sunrise, the two ships I was on through last week. Then tomorrow night at 7:30, I will have Chillie Chats with Kyle Falwell, my pilot friend who has flown all those supplies into the Bahamas and still is doing that on a regular basis. And we'll get an update on what's going on in the Bahamas firsthand instead of through multi-hands like we've seen in the past. So that's tomorrow night at 7:30. So we got two Chillie Chats, one today at noon with Jason and one tomorrow night with Kyle Falwell. So make sure you mark those on your calendars and watch for the links that'll be popping up on my live stream. And as always, if you're new to this channel and sit back and wondering what in the world's going on, we talk a lot about cruises and cruise ships and ports of call. We regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. Chillie Chats is when I interview folks about travel and cruise industry. And then we do this show, our travel and cruise industry news show, is Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. And if you'd like to keep up with any of those, down someplace, down this way, I guess it's down there, is the subscribe button. Hit that little sucker and hit the bell notification, and they'll let you know when I go live or when I post a new video. And as always, folks, appreciate a thumbs up for our efforts today. And we'll see you next time on Travel and Cruise Industry News.
Thank you for watching today's Travel and Cruise Industry News. Join us every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern for another episode. Travel and Cruise Industry News is a production of Chillie's Cruises.